What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Free Yourself podcast. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ryan Janni, and I am naked. And so is my motherfucking guest today, and I love it. Everybody, welcome PIKASTU to the podcast. We are promoting his incredible new series that he's starting called Share Your Bangers. And I am so excited to talk about it because when you first told me about it, I was so pumped about it. So I want to let you start to first, introduce yourself and all that good stuff. And then we'll get right to it because it's such a cool idea. What's up, guys? Brand new podcast. My man, PIKASTU, one of the awesome, beautiful people we've met through the events we've been throwing all summer in Philadelphia. And this guy is, first off, blew my mind with how many instruments he can play, how much his music theory knowledge, and really just like how he his viewpoint and knowledge on how to build a set and what goes into it and how much insight he has because of his music theory background. Like he minored in I think it was jazz in college, and he plays, he plays the electric guitar, he's played bass, he's played violin, piano, and it's so cool to see someone coming from that background into music production and DJ. And Stu is doing this whole series where he was told by someone when someone asked for an ID of one of the songs in his sets, and he gave it to him, another DJ came up to him and said, "Yo, man, like, don't give away your biggest drops." Like, and he said this phrase, "Hide your bangers." And now I'm sure a lot of DJs have heard that. And, but in reality, like, for someone like me, I want to give credit to an artist when it's their song, right? I want people to know and go and support that artist, because if it wasn't for that artist spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours in the studio, I wouldn't have that song to play and add flavor and add, energy to my set. So he's doing this whole series called Share Your Bangers, where he's going to go over like his edits. He's going to go over other artists' songs, and he's going to show not only what's so great about these songs, but why you would use them in a set and how you would use them in a set. And I think it's really important for all of us to we've shown that over the past year and a half, 2 years since the pandemic started, that when we came together as a community, the community got so much stronger. So the more we can give back to the community and the more we can help other artists get notification or notoriety, and gain a following, like the possibilities are endless in what we can all do together. And it's been so beautiful to watch, him grow as a DJ and a producer, and him grow as an artist, and all these other people that we've built this, Philadelphia electronic music scene with. And not just the artists, all the people that I don't want to say fans even. It's like these incredible people that all have their own way of expressing their art, right? And whether that be flow artists, whether it be videographers, photographers, shout out Ralph John Visuals, like all these different artists that are expressing themselves, and it's such a beautiful thing. I'm really grateful to be in Philadelphia right now, and in this community. It's growing, and it's a beautiful thing, man. So without further ado, Free Yourself episode 141 with my man PIKASTU. Get this thing off too. Actually, I would love to see. I'm gonna start see what the whoop says about my heart rate and strain during a podcast. Let's see. I've never done this before with this.
That's awesome.
Start activity. Fuck yeah. That's so cool. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Free Yourself podcast. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ryan Janni, and I am naked. And so is my motherfucking guest today, and I love it. Everybody, welcome PIKASTU to the podcast. We are promoting his incredible new series that he's starting called Share Your Bangers. And I am so excited to talk about it because when you first told me about it, I was so pumped about it. So I want to let you start to first, introduce yourself and all that good stuff. And then we'll get right to it because it's such a cool idea.
Awesome, bro. Thank you so much. It's so fun to be on here tonight and just be naked with you. Just two naked bros who love EDM, who love life, just chatting about this shit. Thank you so much for being supportive of this new project, which I'm really excited about. And just to give a quick synopsis of the intent of this. There's a saying among DJs, and you've probably heard this before, which is hide your bangers. And for me, it was one of the first times I played. This guy asked me for an idea of one of the songs I played, and I gave it to him, and I was like, "Do you have a flash drive, man? I'll drag it on for you." And this guy who'd been doing it a bit longer came over and kind of tapped me on the shoulders, like real nicely, and was like, "Hey, man, you don't just be careful giving away your big drops, because that's your special sauce, and that's why we always say hide your bangers." So, dude, next time, just thank him and just kind of tell him you want to keep that to yourself. It just didn't sit with me so well. No judgment to people that do that. And so after a while of DJing more, I was like, man, A, I didn't make this music and you probably didn't make this music. B, this music brings so much happiness and so much vibing to so many other people. There's no part of me that wants to hide any of this. All I want to do is share this with anybody. Man, I would love someone else to use a drop that I like using. So fast forward a year and a half, I've been a dubstep DJ, and for the past 6 months, I've entered into this production thing and now kind of making my own edits and using a lot of my own produced things. It's man, I want to give these away and share them so much. So starting a Instagram and TikTok content series, just sharing my own edits, explaining why they work, explaining how you might use them in a set, and just offering them out. And then on the off weeks, picking tracks from the homies, good friends of mine, whose IDs and music I use, and just promoting that as well and explaining here's my boy's awesome track, and here's where you would put it in your set to accomplish this goal, and just hope to offer something back.
Hell yeah, man. I cannot be happier that you're doing this because I 100% agree with you. A, I didn't make that song. And B, what you said, when it's played, it brings so much happiness to so many people. So I kudos to you for starting this whole project where you're going to be even explaining and showing people how to use it in sets. You're taking it even a step further, man. So that's so freaking cool. And I've had people not say hide your bangers to me, but people hesitant to share a song with me. And I'm like, first off, the songs that I might hide from someone is maybe something that I'm just not ready to release yet. Right. But the whole point of not the whole point, but something that is really important for all DJs and producers to do when they have a song that's going to come out in 3 months to 6 months is to get support from other DJs. Sure. Because then when you go to a label to get it signed, you're this person all already support it and played it in their sets and maybe on a radio show or something like that. And then you have more ammo to be oh, well, if these top DJs like it, then I'm definitely going to release it on my label. So kudos to you, man.
Thank you so much. I feel like it is a very good match with the Janni ethos, the Naked DJ ethos, popping down, seeing you at the pier this weekend and just checking out any events you're at, dude. Your attitude is always so much of how can I offer value back to other people? And I think that there's a segment of the community that fucks with that, which is so awesome. And maybe a segment of the community that, you know, maybe it's out of like insecurity or just out of not being ready, who doesn't know that, man, if you offer something out and if you give to other people, like no one's going to make fun of you. No one's going to reject you. Like it's safe. People will love you for that. And it shouldn't be about it coming back, but it also does come back. And so just like, I love your values of giving out freely without asking. That's so cool.
I appreciate that, man. Cause like you said, man, when you first off, when you play a song in a set, like anybody, you know, sometimes at some venues and stuff, the bass is too much and you can't Shazam it, but like anybody can Shazam it. And like, I had like the whole, how Free Yourself started was me I did 100 episodes of actual DJ sets, and I would go live on Facebook. This is before the pandemic. This is way before that, where everyone started streaming and stuff. I was just like, what is a way that I can get this music that I love and these people, these up and coming artists that I love, what is a way I can expose new people to their music? And so I had this whole, like it was hashtag genres are just limitations. And like, I would take anybody's music from, like, if I listened to it, I fucked with it. And usually I would listen to like the first verse and the first drop so that the second drop would surprise me and you would get my genuine reaction on screen.
Okay, that's cool.
So like, luckily I never really said that to anybody. So no one fucked with me and like put in a fart sound for the second drop.
Right.
You know? Like, but to be honest, like I would have been able to see from the waveform if it was something like completely like different from the other one. You could just tell from from that stuff. But it's like only my unreleased music that I'm not ready to like pitch to a label or anything like that. That's the only songs that I'm going to hold close to the vest. Like all these other songs are they were put out to be heard. Right. Not to be kept by some DJ. Like if the person that owned that song heard that guy say that, they'd be like, yo, fuck you. Like, tell him what song that is. Like,
yeah, dude. And that's one of those parts that always feels so odd to me. It's like DJing and not producing, totally cool, totally valid. It's its own art form. There's so much to it. But at the end of the day, you really are using somebody else's art. And like, it benefits that person so much. Like they have offered you so much value. You have all of their shit to use, all of their like late night hours in the studio, all of the like easy paths in life, you know, that we all understand as producers. It's not easy. It's immense amounts of time for very little reward for so much of it. It's mentally health draining. A lot goes into it. And to have these people that make this beautiful art that have finally like ascended to an echelon of quality that so many people want to play their music, like you are indebted in a way artistically so much to that person as a DJ. Like you 100% to be a good person, like owe them that, hey man, like what's that crazy drop? Like, dude, that was a blank drop. Blank's so cool. He's a great producer. You should check out his stuff. But you should want to do that with these artists, especially as probably someone who loves to go to shows, who's had a great time throwing down to those. For you and me, like it's the stuff that fuels your workout. Like I just feel like sometimes these big artists have given us so much, and because they're so big, we feel like, you know, it's irrelevant, but it's how they got there, and it's a respect thing.
Absolutely. And to take it a step further, say I heard some wild drop in your set, and after the set, I'm like, yo, what was the song that went like this? And it wound up being your song. Then how freaking, like, I don't know if that's ever like really happened to you, but when people have come up to me and been like, oh, this song is so sick. Like, what is this? And I'm like, that's an unreleased track. Like, dude, thank you. Like I couldn't be more grateful for someone to be asking that. And like, I've sent, you know, I've had 2 releases on Funk Junk. I've had a release on Appointed Recordings and a release on Mashbook. And those 2 were remixes and like different. It was before Chris and I were the remote controllers and did Bass House. It was like, it was one that was like a trap drop, which is our Stars remix. It had a trap drop and then a 4 to the floor hard style drop for the second drop. And then the other one was a trance track that we turned into like a big room type of track. And it was when Chris and I were like finding our bearings and figuring out what kind of music we wanted to make. And And then we settled on Bass House, and then we started really making like the remote controllers sound. And
Sure.
And then from there, like now Chris has stopped making music, and it's just me now. So now I have a couple songs that Chris and I have made, and now I'm venturing even deeper into making new music. And like there's nothing that I've made that I'm ready to play out yet and stuff like that. But the hard work in the studio, like you talked about it, man, like the hours that it takes to get something to be somewhat good quality, where you're like, maybe I could drop this at a club, because actually club sound systems are always mono. So like, even if you don't like fuck with the stereo and stuff, like it'll, as long as it's got like, as long as the kick and the sub
Yep.
are good, it'll probably bang. Like, so like, but I'm really excited for this for Share Your Bangers. Like this is such a I think something that needs to be, said more often, because now I'm like, I've had songs, and I'll shut up after this and let you talk, but Ty Salone shared a song with me called It's Time to Move by Sosa, who's a UK tech house artist. And shout out to Chris Mays too, who shared a song with me, Disco Check. I forget the artist, but like, these are two songs that when they played them, I was like, these are insane. Like I love these songs. And like, sometimes I play them in my sets, sometimes I don't, but like, if anything, like what I know I'm doing is helping the artists who made the song get their stuff heard. And I would think that's why Ty and Chris both gave me those tracks, that they're both like, yes, like spread this freaking music. Like, but the one thing I won't do is I won't play those songs when they're there. That is, right. I've noted, but I think I did that subconsciously, because I was like, you know what, if, especially at any of the, a lot of the shows that we've been doing are times where there's open decks and stuff. And like, sure, Ty has gone on after me. So like, I'm not going to play a song that I know he's going to play. It's the same as when you're opening for a DJ, you're not going to play any of their music.
Yeah. That's such like a, I guess, understood common courtesy, because you don't want to take something that was somebody's like kind of crown jewel, and they've like arranged it in this spot to manage the energy level of their set. Like they've crafted this. I think, right, there's a perception maybe, or just a big unknown among people that don't produce or DJ. And I remember this too. Like you're younger, you're going to shows, there's a guy up there who's like twisting knobs and doing things. And I don't know what your musical background is. I played jazz and metal guitar for 15 years, piano for 3 and violin for 3 and bass for 6. Before like getting into this, I minored in jazz in college. And so like moving into this space, even like, I remember I would see these artists live and I'd be like, bro, like what's going on? Like I imagined it to be this series of crazy loops, and like the hot cues you think are maybe like big bass hits, and you're like, oh, that guy's like really like fucking this up right now. And you need that energy. Like you can't fucking vibe even as an artist if the DJ isn't. But like that person has created this thing. It's not a live art in the same way. The person has made this thing. And I think artists often make things to fit into a spot. They know, especially big touring artists, like, Seven Lions is making 3 new songs or something. And like those songs are going to be made to fill roles in his performances. It's like, okay, I need a song with a big, heavy melodic drop, or like, oh, I need a new psytrance thing because the psytrance I've been using is played out. And so to like suck that energy, I guess, before them, I went to this like cool party this weekend. Ruvlo came and played, and Yuki showed up. It was like in this house in Philly, which was so wild. And like the people playing before were literally people that had like, most of them had never played before. It was their first time on their beginner decks, which is amazing. It was so cool to see people given this like opportunity to just like, and they all played so well, right? They put so much into it. But the one dude played like Ruvlo's biggest song kind of right before him. And I just remember it's just like this feeling of like, oh no, I'm glad this wasn't a show. Like this guy probably had this, for a thing.
Yeah. See, that's funny, because like especially at an instance like that, like maybe especially someone like Ruvlo, like I feel like he's more well known to a lot more of the people that are like deep in the community than your average person, right? Like I'm not gonna go to my parents. They're not gonna know who Rob Lowe is, but they've heard of TSO. You know what I mean? Like shit like that. But like Rob Lowe's been, he's been coming up and he's been doing well, and the music that he's making is like, he should know that like at a house party like that, it should be like an honor that someone played his song at that house party.
And he was,
like,
of course, so cool about it. Like, also the nicest and humblest dude. Like, met him, and Yuki was there as well, just in someone's apartment. And it's nicest people, man. And that's such the beautiful thing as well about this community is I feel like almost any artist, even if they look like scary or their visuals or they're like weird rhythm things, it's all like blood and stuff. It's always so nice, man. Say, like, people watching this, like, dude, go say hi to the artists you like. Go, you're never bothering them. It's not like weird celebrities. Like, if you're not weird, they're so happy to say hi.
Yeah, I mean, especially guys that are in the 20K to 50K follower range and stuff like that. They're still so close to where everyone from Realty, like Ciroc and Hep, they're still so close because they were just there. Yep. And they finally, their music was starting to be spread and heard by other people, and now they're finally like blowing up, and so it's like it's still new. There's still just a person, like, and that's one thing that I love about the electronic music community. And well, I really want to talk, dude. So your music theory background is insane. Holy shit! I didn't know you played all these instruments. And so I want to rewind. Let's go back to to early Stu. How did you? What instruments did you start with? How did you get into it? And how did you wind up going to school for it? Like,
sure. So I in grade school was just like always like a bad kid. It was just like, Stu's like not doing his shit. Stu's like bad. He's drawing skulls instead of like doing his math homework or whatever. And it ended up like being in like the gifted program at school where they were like, oh, this kid is just bored. So one of the things they offered me, they did some kind of like, I don't know, like little tests, like analysis or whatever. And I just have always had like a good ear. Like I had good pitch. I like sang in the choirs and stuff as a kid and chorus. And so you were allowed to like do instruments in 5th grade, I think. But if you were gifted, they would let you start in 3rd. And honestly, I wanted to play drums, and my parents, being like sane older people, were like, no, you can play the violin. And I was like very excited, and then hated the shit out of it. Bro, I hated the violin so much. I would go around my house as a kid, because this is like before everyone had smartphones, and I would fucking change the clocks after I told my mom I started practice to get out of, like, I would change the clocks in our home to get out of 10 minutes of playing the violin. Because you're playing like one section of like a bad Christmas song, and it's like not even the whole like Jingle Bells. It's like one, it's awful. So that was shitty, and I like couldn't take it. And my parents were like, fine, like, what about the piano? We have a piano. I did like a year and a half of that and like liked it more, but also, I don't know, I was just a kid and like didn't care and was like, I don't like this. And then one time I was visiting my great grandmother, who's this old ass 90-some-year-old woman, just like kind of a wild ass lady. She'd been married to this like coal mine owner. So they were like very rich and out of touch. And our family was very poor. It was like just so weird to go see her in this like opulent old age home. And one time she just was like, is there anything you want? And I was like, I want an electric guitar. And my mom was like horrified, but she was like, sure. And she bought me like what to me was an unbelievable like expense, like bought me like a $700, like pretty nice Ibanez, a small Marshall amp. And my parents were kind of like, had to be okay with it because it was from, great grandma. And just fell in love with it, man. I loved playing electric guitar. I was so into metal. Played in like, this was like when deathcore and metalcore were kind of big, like the scene. Got very into that, and shredding had like this reemergence in the late 2000s, early 20 teens. It was like a time where metal was happy to be technical again. It was tired of like butt rock, grungy, Puddle of Mud style metal. And it was like, okay, Avenged Sevenfold is cool now. So music theory for guitar kids was like the way to be a better guitar player and to stand out from the other dudes. So I had kind of an academic mindset already and was like, cool, I'm just gonna like learn this guitar theory stuff. Kept doing it, went to college for like other stuff, but it was a great music school and I lived, all my roommates were full-time musicians. So I minored in music. I played in this jam band with these guys in college, the Extra Dank. So I like
Hell yeah.
and then that had its own type of music theory where like jazz was so useful because when you're playing in a jam band, you just want to quickly identify like the chord, the key, the groove, the progression. It's like, okay, I want to quickly figure out this is A major. And then I want to be super comfortable hopping into like a B Dorian because I want to make this major song have a bite and feel minor. Or like, okay, I want to be really comfortable, with a chord substitution. Like, okay, I want to put the third in the root of the chord now because I really want it to feel like big and resolute. And so this theory for me was like a very applied science. Like I'm not a great music reader. To sit down and read sheet music is like laborious. And honestly, I don't really touch the instruments that much other than when I'm writing EDM songs. But I think a carryover, like if there's anybody watching this who like did instruments as a kid or now, or ever thinks about DJing and producing, it carries over so much. It gives you this ability, people talk about harmonic mixing. I remember that was so weird when I started DJing because I couldn't imagine a non-harmonic mixture of songs. And I began to identify, it was like, these are the things that sound shitty to me at concerts that everyone else just is unbothered by. But it's like, okay, this is an A major. And right after this, you played something in, A sharp major. Like it's dissonant. Like it just sounds off. And like in 10 seconds, you're over it. But fuck, that 10 seconds sucked. And so like harmonic mixing, if you know anything about theory, will come so naturally to you. And, this Share Your Banger series, not to keep coming back to it, but, it's predominantly these edits I've been making recently. And they're bigger blocks. I've watched a lot of melodic DJs. Like if you watch Seven Lions, for instance, DJ, he'll have a 3 to 7 minute block of just like mashup, edit kind of thing of his own music and some other things he's made. He'll throw it on, he'll vibe, and then he'll either swap it to another block if it's time, or he'll let it ride. And it gives you kind of this option, to create something without having to be frantically mixing. And I kind of wanted to do that same thing. And I feel like this theory was so helpful in being able to understand like what songs would fit together. And even compositionally having that ear for, wow, here's like a very trebly vocal track and it's a sad boy song. And like the artist has left it minimal and bare. It's in B minor. So it has that kind of like what wistful, melancholic kind of feel. Okay, you know what this would really fuck with this? An AU5 song that has a big throbbing like boom, 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 boom. Like if I'd put that in at certain points, this would elevate the song so much, offer it a totally different, unique feel, which might be my own, making something a sad boy song dancing and giving it enough meat during its verse that like a big bass drop feels good. And so many times you'll see somebody and it's not a dig, but you'll hear a mix and it's like, okay, they took this cool vocal track and they turned it into a big drop. We all love that. It's what everybody likes in a big festival mix. But man, they didn't beef this up. So like, it's not so much that it's a great tension and resolution. It's tension, resolution, and a jarringness because you're aurally not prepared. There's so many weird new frequencies that haven't been teased that it just doesn't hit you. And so I think to come back to this like music theory journey for me, it feels so good to be at home, though new to this, it makes so much sense to mix. It makes so much sense to produce. Just understanding what music really needs to create that tension and resolution. I don't care if it's house, I don't care if it's rhythm, trance, whatever it is, that is the name of the game in EDM. And different genres might have different amounts of it. Maybe house is a much subtle, almost spiritual, like slow build and release, and you're lost in it. maybe dubstep is sometimes like, how fucking like surprising can we be? I mean, that's all managing tension and resolution. I'm curious, Ryan, on your end, like what has your musical journey been to get into this?
You just fucking blown my mind. Wow. So very minimal music theory knowledge on my end before I got into production. Never played instruments, dude. But I can identify so much of what you're talking about. I'm just grateful that because I don't mix vinyl, so I have a screen that tells me this song is in key with this song because it's highlighted here and both of their keys are here. But if I go and I search through key, it gives me 3 keys that match with the song that's playing and a list of all my songs in there. And I've really grown to like it wasn't important to me when I first started, but I had a pretty good ear. So like if you go back and listen to my mixes, I bet it like from back where I used to be called like the Jersey Devil and shit, like back in early 2010 to 2014. That was the time where I made, the most of my mixes, right? Because I wasn't producing and I wanted to put out something to, kind of bolster, like have something to show people when I wanted to get booked and things like that. And one thing that I can very confidently say is that if you go back and listen to that, I'm doing a lot of what you're talking about, which is matching up different, like when I know a song has great high end, but not not a good enough low end that I like for the song. I blended those songs together and I cut the lows out from one and I beef up even the highs on the other one so that they blend well together. And a lot of all those mixes, almost every drop that I ever did in a mix was a double drop. And almost every verse or breakdown was either a song that had no lyrics and a song that had lyrics that I'm pretty sure they're going to be matching keys and stuff. Like if you went back and looked, so like this stuff, it got, once it was pointed out to me to mix in key, then I was like, okay, now I'm going to really actually pay attention to this and see if I can start identifying the songs. And now I couldn't tell you this song is in this key, but I can tell you this song will go well with this song.
Right.
And then when I look it up, it's either in that exact same key or it's in one of those 3 because I'm so familiar with the record box, programming and stuff. It's so important and it's stuff that only someone that is, real well versed in music theory or like another DJ or producer that cares about these things will notice. But you can tell when people, we can tell when someone is mixing 2 songs that are not in the same key. Like and I'm sure I think we're honestly giving a little bit. Well, I'll give it on me. I think I've been giving the listener a little bit less credit than I should, because I think most people can tell in the crowd, like, something's off about this, or, oh my God, I can tell they're playing 2 songs and they blend so well together.
Right. And I think for those folks and for all of us, like even people that have like a music, like I don't want to say nobody, almost nobody, regardless of their knowledge, can hear a song and be like, that's in A. Like that's just a weird level of pitch that like non-crazy vocalists don't have. But it's a feeling thing, right? There's something subconsciously, almost like primally unsettling about dissonance. And it's so funny because dissonance is this like big tool in a musician or DJ's arsenal. It's like, I can do this and you are going to want something so bad. I'm going to put you in a space you don't want to be in, maybe a little bit, so that when I bring you somewhere you're happy to be, you're so fucking happy to be there. And it really is just about managing that. And I think what you and I both have an ear for and what listeners really have an ear for is like, where does dissonance belong? And I think that that's a really cool thing about the electronic music genre, in no shade to listeners of all genres, because every genre has its, own cool thing to offer. I think EDM listeners are so thoughtful. They are thinking and feeling the music so much when they are engaging with it, because it's such a live-based art form, because you build these through, you know, healthy consciousness altering, you build these huge emotional connections with sounds. And so when you bring them back home, I think, not to move this in this direction, but also to do that, like, it's so interesting to me that EDM continues. What you know, it had its little moment in the 20 teens where like Usher and pop artists were like having EDM-y kind of backgrounds. And maybe it's not quite there. You know, there was a Skrillex boom. I feel like it just
Yup.
is always this thing where people enjoy it at home because they've had an emotional experience with it live. And for most people, it's very hard to have that first experience that really motivates you at home. It doesn't translate as well that way. And I think, to give listeners credit, like that's where those ears make such a huge difference. You're hearing something that sounds and feels so good. You just want to like relive that, even if it's in your beats, even if you can't feel that bass in your chest, or you can't like feel that clicky boots and cats in your feet. Like you're remembering that feeling when you like bump it at home.
Dude, it's so true. Like, and I've always said this to like the people that don't, you know, listen to electronic music or don't like it. It's like, I'm like, I guarantee you just haven't seen it live. Like when you go, and this is something that I've also come to know with probably every genre. Like when you go and experience someone do it live, there's a different emotional connection that you get, not only to that song, but if you're in like something that, like say someone like me, like the first time that I went to a jazz club, like I'm walking in this place, like this is in 2012 ish. My buddy had to do a project where he needed to go to a jazz club. And I was like, I'm freaking down. Like, this is going to be sick. But I walk in and like, you can still smoke cigs in there. And like it's like, it's a different vibe then, especially then, that I was used to. Like I was used to clubs and bars, and like, not at all a jazz club. And like, I know, you know what I'm talking about. It's a different vibe altogether. So like I got in there immediately, like uncomfortable. But then these guys, they were playing, and it just like, I'm like, oh my God, how I can't, I'm mad. This is the first time I'm coming. Like, this is like, it was so impactful. And literally, you know, at this point, I've been DJing for like 2 years and really wanted to get into music production, but I had the fear that I'd never played instruments. So I was like scared of I didn't know how to make music. Like it was this whole, you know, big, scary thing to me. And I went up to the guys after their set, and I'm just like, that was incredible. Like, because at a jazz club, like you just walk right up to the stage, like anybody, like it wasn't this like huge, big production. It was
Right.
like, it was like 30 people there, and it was 4 people on stage. And when they were like, all right, we're going to take a like 10-minute break or whatever. I just went up there and I was like, you guys are blowing me away. And I told him, I was like, this is the first time I've ever been to a jazz club. Like, and I want to make music. I'm a DJ, and the nicest guys. And like, but now when like, I couldn't tell you who those guys were. I couldn't tell you, like, I couldn't identify a song that they played, like anything like that. But now, like, I have such a different emotional connection to jazz music. And it's like, when I hear it, like, it's such a calming, like, it's like I'm okay. Like, listen, you know what I mean? Cause like I had that emotional experience where I was like, I'm uncomfortable, but then they were playing and I was like, oh, I'm so safe here. Like, this is incredible. And so I think like very much what you're saying is right on point with like all the, you know, the principles that I have backing, you know, electronic music and people exposing themselves to new music. And it just all comes back to open-mindedness. Like that's what it's all about. And someone who says, I hate that kind of music, is just someone who's closed-minded to even diving into it. And they're just like, that thing's different from me, so I'm going to stay in my safe place over here.
And, you know, there are these like 2 factors I think about with that all the time, because we all have things that we don't like. And we all have things that we naturally like, don't like at first and like later. And then thirdly, we all have things that we just don't like when we hear them. We don't like them while we're trying to like them, and we will never like them. But you hear people all the time say this phrase and this maybe shots taken at people that say this, consider not saying this because it's shitty. When people are like, I don't get this. It's like, that's a choice. If you have some empathy, which we all do, if you have some empathy and you spend a little bit of mental exertion, so little, but you just kind of let go of your ego a little bit, you can get it and not like it. For me, like, house music is something that I can enjoy a little bit of from time to time, like deep house, melodic house, progressive house, sure. But like when it's like housey person's house, like tech house, bass house, I'd probably never pick that, man. Like, but I would never say I don't get it, because of course I can get it. It's hypnotic, it's soulful, it's a lose yourself experience. It's so good for dancing. It's also so safe to have on while you're doing other things. You can drink, you can do anything at a house concert, anything that you want. It's not dubstep where it's like you're doing one of three things or you won't like this. Like, house is so open. But when you hear dubstep people, which I would call myself one of, like, hey man, I'm for dubstep and trance and like trap and all that stuff, I totally get it. It's easy to understand the appeal. And when you understand something, when you engage in that, when you say, I get this, you respect it. And I think that that's such an important part of all of this, is respecting something. And the other component of that is people just like, it's human nature to be bothered by the unknown. We are wired to fear and reject things that we do not know. And so the secret is never to stay comfortable and like not go to that jazz club. Or for me, man, I'll go to house shows. I've been to house shows. And I almost regularly try and be like, okay, I haven't been to a non-dubstep thing in a while. It's time to go to something of a genre that I like maybe wouldn't pick, because I need to continue to be comfortable with this other thing so that I can respect it, so that I can appreciate it, so that I can get it. And I think for anybody listening, or just like with all genres of music, like, challenge yourself to get it. Life is a lot more fun when your ego is not blocking things for you and not causing you to constantly turn other people off, not cause yourself to be turned off by people. That somebody could be your best buddy. Like, dude, if you and I were like EDM culture warriors of our own things, like, we would not be bonding, even though we have an immense amount in common, just two fucking jacked ass, very free spirited, like very genuine weirdos in the best way, living our best weirdo lives. Like, we could have let this genre thing where we make very opposite kinds of music, like, we could be here in this cool little Philly community and we could totally not connect. And that would have been such a silly loss. And I hope that people will think about that more. Like, man, get these other people's music.
Dude, I could not agree more, man. Like, we literally have so much in common. And if we let that thing get in between us, the fact that you make dubstep and I make house music, like, that would be, it's the silliest disagreement. Like, there's so many people, and that's what I really grown to love about the Philadelphia community. It's like, there's so many artists and we're all going out and supporting each other, no matter what the genre is, because all of us getting bigger will only boost everyone in the Philly scene up. Like, it's like this beautiful phenomenon that's happening. And there's like 100, artists that have come together since the first Graffiti Pier show that we threw last year. And like, there's so many of us, and artists, and I'm talking flow artists too, like all visual artists, videographers and photographers. Like, there's been this whole community that's come together. And like when Sam Heff and I were trying to do this whole Graffiti Pier thing, like, we wanted to build a house community, but Philadelphia is so bass music heavy that almost all the people that came out to open decks were people that made bass music. So what did we do? We just threw people that made bass music on the lineups, and we're like, we're going to play house when we're on, and we're just going to make friends with everybody. And then when people that make bass music come on, they're going to play their freaking bass music. And it's created this, you see, I know there was, people that make all different sorts of genres that came to my show when I played at the Ave. Whenever, when Kyle's been at the Ave, there's a bunch of house guys that go and support. It's always, there's so many, up and coming artists in Philly right now, and everyone is so supportive, and no one gives a fuck what kind of music you make. Like everyone is just like, you're a good person. Okay, let's freaking go. Let's freaking do this.
Yeah, and huge like plug, I think, obviously for like Ciroc and Hef, like, and you doing that Graffiti Pure event. Like, I think it's so easy for anybody who goes to one of these things or knows you guys to pick up that vibe. And I think one thing that's been so cool is you see so many people who maybe without a community like that wouldn't get their first pair of decks. And like, you can find the stats anywhere. Like, hey, most people that buy a pair of DJ decks, like 90% of people in 3 months, probably put them away, which is totally fine. But I don't know anybody that's bought their first pair of decks and had a little go of it that didn't get so much of an appreciation and just like deeper connection with music, with self-confidence, with feeling good. And, you know, it really, you don't have to be a Tiesto or a Subtronics. You know, the local dudes, you think of Ciroc and Hef and Kyle at Bad Proxy, you know, Eddie, Mr. J, the guys over there at Obsidian. It's like all of these people who might not be on the world's biggest national stage, although people are coming up, are real everyday heroes to people in Philadelphia because the community. You know, my first job out of college, I worked for this big company. I was a vice president. It was very silly. I got fired because that was crazy. But I would travel around to these 15 branches of this big $40 million construction company and go to all these different cities. And so I was always like kind of checking out the scenes. And I have never been to a place where the people in the scene who are doing it, who are the guys at the Ave, who are the regular guys at Noda, who are the guys throwing the events. We'll talk to anybody who's there. We'll ask them if they want to play. We'll ask if they have a drive. We'll say, hey, man, I do lessons. Hit me up. There's so much mentorship in the Philly scene. And people here are not out to sell you lessons, to get rich and be big music teachers. People here just want to help. And I don't think enough can be said about those guys and just the mentorship that exists. I know for me, it was like, hey, man, I've never produced anything. I kind of don't know where to start. I've written music before. I've recorded, you know, metal albums. I've recorded jam band stuff. I've recorded jazz. I don't know how to get into this scary looking Ableton. Like, I don't know what a MIDI track is, let alone what the fuck an OTT is, let alone building a rack of 4 OTTs, let alone a mastering rack, let alone using a spectrometer and a loudness meter and a soft clipper. And it's the levels of machination required to do this are immense. And to have somebody from the scene mentor you, like anybody watching this who's thinking about producing or even DJing, like hit up these local guys. They have great rates. They better than you will get going to like some cool page on Instagram that has an academy program. And hit up Kyle, hit up these dudes. It's amazing, the mentorship. And, you know, shout out so much to Kyle, to Bad Proxy, for helping me, for offering me some lessons after I saw him at that Graffiti Pure thing. And it just gives you so much, and it cuts out so much of this, you know, failure to launch time of being confused. And that's like a special thing we have here. And I feel like for both you and me, it's like just gratitude, endless gratitude for being a part of it.
Yeah, for sure, man. And what's really cool is been the change that I've seen in the Philadelphia scene, because like when I was first coming up, it felt like everybody was gunning for the same, because there's not a lot of places that played electronic music, and there was only, like, especially in Westchester, there was like 20 of us DJs trying to come up, and there was 4 places that played top 40. And when you played electronic music, the owners would come up to you and be like, dial it back, like top 40, like, come on, like, what are you doing? And so any chance that some, you know, artists came to town and it was like an opportunity to open for them at you know, there was a place, I forget the name of it maybe it was the Note, but it was Bam Margera's bar club. And there was sometimes where like a bigger artist would come and you'd actually, oh my God, I get to do a set. That's me, not like a top 40 set. And so there was a lot of, like, I don't want to say, you know, people were gunning for each other, but like there was me and my 3 guys, and like I wanted those guys to get those slots. And so whenever I was DJing at a place, like I'm talking to the owners and stuff that about me and my crew. Like I'm not promoting these other people. And now I'm so grateful that electronic music took off the way it did, because now like there's freaking 2 to 3 opening slots 4 nights a week at 4 places. Like it's freaking, it's, and you don't want to get, I don't want to play at the Ave every week, because honestly, it's hard to get everybody to come out every freaking week to do that. And like, now that we have the opportunity to go in and, Hef's played there, Ciroc's played there, Bad Proxies played there, Trials played there, Beema, Bitsky, freaking, freaking Silver Space, freaking like all, like, I'm sorry to anybody who I didn't say your name that you played there and you're our boy, but like the point I'm trying to make is that everybody's getting these freaking sets now, and it's so awesome. Like I'm so grateful for it.
It's because I feel like it's this abundance thing. Like there is enough. Like I know I first messed around with Ableton, I feel like maybe 6 years ago. I had a friend who was a DJ. I was recording metal at the time, and I downloaded some Zelda samples and it was like, I'm gonna make some lo-fi hip hop, and like mess around with it for 2 weeks and was like, yeah. And it's like when pandemic started, was just like,
you were frozen for like a minute and a half, but I hear you and see you now.
Okay. So awesome. So what I was saying is, like, man, pre-pandemic, I had this feeling, I knew I wanted to do some music, but I didn't have this abundance mentality. It was like, man, everyone does that. Like nobody cares what I have to do. And I think something that you and I would both say to anybody who's thinking at all about making music, who even wants to buy a $150 DJ deck and to see if it feels right, there is space for you. There is so much space. Everybody has house parties where they want their boys to play. Then it gets bigger than that. Then like you and your homies start having parties and you invite a bunch of people. And then it's like summer rooftop parties at another level. And like people you don't know want to come vibe because somebody's got the roof. And then it's up to Graffiti Pier. And then it's like, man, opening at the Ave and Noto. And there's a spot for everybody at any level. And there's always the option to climb. Not everyone's going to go festival main stage, but not everybody wants to. And like that's not anybody should be anybody's musical goal. Like there's space for you to share your art. And if you want other people to hear it and you stick after it, there's space for you to do it for other people.
Dude, absolutely, man. The beautiful thing about electronic music and the progression of how it's made now, to where anybody can get Ableton, anybody can get decks, literally anybody can make music now, as long as you have a computer that can run a DAW, right? So now you have this like art form that's been around since probably like the 80s, that electronic music's really been being made, from like the 80s synth wave. And if you even want to take it back to when like Pink Floyd and them are using, analog synths and shit like that. Like these things have always been around, but like to get an analog synth and make and record music 30 years ago was so difficult that so many people that have the access to do it now never would have had this opportunity. And now all it takes is time in the DAW, right? Time in the DAW. You, like you said, find a mentor, and anybody can bring their art to the world. And it's such a beautiful, the technology and social media and stuff. Like we can all, rattle off the negatives and stuff that there is about it. But like I think one of the most beautiful things about it is like anybody can make art now, and anybody can get their art out there. And whatever kind of art, whether it has to be seen or heard, like either way, it can all get out there now. And like we all start from that same 0 follower starting line, right? Like everybody has that, and everybody starts with the like, I've never opened the DAW, or I've never painted the picture, or I've never done the digital art. Like everybody starts now at the same spot. And everybody has the same opportunity to get their stuff seen and heard. And I think that is something that like I forget when I think about like how toxic social media can be. And like it's very, especially for me, right? Because like a lot of my life now has been working through the phone, right? But like I wouldn't be able to be a coach if I didn't have this opportunity, right? And not in the way that I'm doing it with this much freedom. Like I would have had to get a job at a gym, give up 8 to 12 hours of my day every day to make enough money to pay rent and live. Like, and now I have the opportunity where I can help people just from my freaking phone, making posts, people reaching out. And now I have the ability to send programs, send nutrition, send mindfulness, all these things. And same with electronic music. If to anybody watching this, if someone's watching this and they're like, I don't know what to do or how to start, like literally any of the people that I've had on this podcast, like DM them. None of them are going to be too big or too famous to freaking talk to you. There's a reason why I have people like you on the podcast. Like there's not a single person on this podcast that's been on my podcast that I know wouldn't answer a DM from someone who's like, hey, I'm just trying to get started. What do I do? Everyone that's been on this podcast, the first thing that's most important to me for someone coming on this podcast is a true, genuine person, a true, genuine heart that's ready to give back. Like I know that about the artists that have been on my podcast, and you're the freaking proof. Stu, I freaking love you to death, man. And now I get to learn so much about you. Like I had no idea about all this music theory knowledge that you've had, and like this share your bangers thing is like such a cool idea. And I'm so happy that you've taken to production with this incredible music theory background, and now you're able to bring what you love and your energy to the world. Like it's so beautiful to watch, man.
Dude, I appreciate that so much. It means so much to be invited on and like to be in the company of all those other people who like, you know, I look up to and think are awesome dudes, make awesome music and great people. And just like to wrap up my thoughts tonight, like, man, social media, like we all struggle with it sometimes. It can be negative. We all know that it's been engineered to be addictive. And like, I would never be self-righteous enough to act like I don't fall into that too. But we can always, like through meditation and mindfulness and stuff with social media, pull ourselves back to get this incredible advantage out of it, which is the freedom to be remote, like you said. And it's also just the freedom to like, at no other point, like learning instruments back in the day, you couldn't get online and watch like top guitar players explain their lick. You had to like order videos. You had to like go through shitty tablature online. There's so many resources now. And there are just so many people who aren't so big yet who will help you. I have been doing 2 like free DJ lessons each month for about 6 or 7 months. A few people hit me up throughout the month and I'll take 2 people, just have them over, show them how to set up a system, how to do doubles. And I know that all those other dudes on the show, if you hit them up, have some kind of similar thing. Well, man, they will point you in a direction for free. And then, you know, if you want to retain them, there might be a charge. But man, be mindful with that social media. It's so good. And dude, I can't thank you enough for having me on the show. I think you are such a big part of the Philly EDM community. Everybody knows Ryan Janni. Everybody knows the Naked DJ. Anybody who's ever seen you play, shameless plug here, go see this guy play. It's such an energy. You don't have to like house music. You don't have to like EDM. This is just like a man loving on everybody at once in his massive arms. And we love you, dude. You're a fucking Philly treasure. And I'm honored to be here naked with you, flexing on some music together.
My man, PIKASTU, I love you, brother. Thank you so much for your kind words. And thank you for coming on the Free Yourself podcast. Much success in your future. All the blessings. I'm so excited to see the Share Your Bangers project and excited to hear your not only your edits but the music that you fully make on your own. I'm so excited, man. I thank you for coming on the podcast. Tell everyone how to get a hold of you, where share your bangers is going to be, all this good stuff.
Sure, 100%. Check my Instagram. It's _PIKASTU, PIKASTU. I have a link to my SoundCloud on there. I have a link to my original tracks, which are on my SoundCloud. And that's where we're going to see all of the mashups, edits I release, as well as these reviews of tracks from people like Kyle, from Bad Proxy, from 4D Sounds, from our local boys who are putting out bangers. Thank you guys so much. Can't wait to share it with you.
Hell yeah. Until next time, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I love you so much, fam. Peace, love, unity, respect. Wow. Love you, brother.
Love you, bro. See ya.